Okay, so we've discussed the fascial web and the fascial lines. What we now have to do is connect these to the chain reactions that we discussed in the movement modules. This is really where the magic happens. So we've got our 6 chain reactions in 3 planes of motions. We've then got our 11 fascial lines with different tracks, intersections, and stations. What a great coach can do is actually connect them. And when we're looking at upgrading effective and efficient movement, say, where am I going to get my most bang for buck? So the way we do this is, number one, which chains were not as successful as you would like or they need? And where do you need to load them? So we look at those chain reactions. Anterior, posterior, same side lateral, opposite side lateral, same side rotation, opposite side. 6. Then we say, which lines, which train tracks intersect with those chain reactions? And then finally, which anatomical complexes, stations, have the most train tracks going through them? Because if I can influence that one thing, and there are many train tracks going through that one thing, boy, remember, if we change one thing, we change everything. So this is our approach. What chains, what lines, where's your big bang for buck train stations? So on this next slide, you're going to see how we've already connected those for you. So before we show you how we've connected those, let's quickly recap what our abbreviations mean. On the left of your screen right now, you're going to see the abbreviations for the 11 myofascial lines. At the top, we've got our superficial back line, superficial front line, lateral line, functional front line, functional back line. Then we've got our spiral line, deep front line, deep back arm line, deep front arm line, superficial front arm line, superficial back arm line. Whew, that's a lot. That's why we use the abbreviations. Now, on the right side, you're going to see our 6 chain reactions put into their individual planes. First up is the sagittal plane. We've got anterior, posterior. Then we've got our frontal plane, same side, opposite side lateral. And then we've got our transverse plane, same side, opposite side rotation. Now, how on earth are we going to connect those things? One of the great things about the Gray Institute is they really do make the complex simple. And what you're looking at right now in your handout is an incredible 1-page cheat sheet that breaks down the 66 vital motions that we need in all human global function. Now, we're not going to bore you by going through each one, but what I do want to do is show you how to read it and give you a couple of examples. Across the top, you're going to see SFT. Remember that safety syntax? We've got sagittal plane, frontal plane, transverse plane. On the left, going vertically, you've got your complexes. The 11 major, not exclusive, but major joint complexes in the body. We've got subtalar and ankle, we've got knee, we've got hip, lumbar, cervical, thoracic, shoulder. But don't forget we've got left and right. So let's take a complex and go horizontal. If I look at, say, the hip, and we look at the right hip, in that first column, S, sagittal, I can flex the hip, I can extend the hip. Let's move over, frontal plane. I can abduct that right hip, I can adduct that right hip. Move over one column, we've got our transverse plane. I can externally rotate, I can internally rotate that right hip. So when you're looking at this chart, it breaks down the 6 vital motions of every major joint complex. One more example, if we look at the shoulder, this time the left shoulder, I've got flexion, I've got extension, sagittal plane. I've got AB, adduction, frontal plane. Then I've got horizontal, AD, abduction. That's actually my transverse plane. So when you look at those abbreviations, all they are is the first letter or 2 letters of every joint motion. Put together, that's 66 vital joint motions. Now, the real brilliance of Gray Institute is you do all of that in 6 chain reactions. This is it. This is the magic slide. I'm going to take you through how to read this for 1 or 2 examples, and then you'll make sense of the other 4. If we look across the top there, we've got our 6 chain reactions abbreviated: anterior, posterior, same side lateral, opposite side lateral, same side rotation, opposite side rotation. Underneath each one, you have the primary train tracks the fascial lines that really impact and influence on that chain. Again, they're not exclusive. Every line affects every plane. But when we look at these chain reactions in their pure sense, pure plane, these are the ones that really influence it the most. So if we look at that anterior chain, SFL, superficial front line, boom, makes sense. But we've also got our functional front line. Yeah, that's going to affect my anterior chain reaction. We've got my deep front arm line, huge. We've got our superficial front arm line, and then we've got our deep front line, literally that toes to nose that goes up, adductors, pelvic floor, wraps around the diaphragm, wraps around the heart, wraps around the tongue. That's truly the core of the body. So anytime I'm doing anything that's predominantly in that anterior chain reaction, I know that those 5 lines are going to have a huge influence. Let's move over one notch to the posterior chain reaction. Well, obviously, anytime I'm sitting in that chair, anytime I'm bending, deadlift is a great example, superficial back line, that thing is lit up. But don't forget that functional back line. Right hip to left shoulder, left hip to right shoulder, glute to shoulder, if you will. Then we've got our spiral line, oof, huge. And then we've got our superficial back arm line. Goes from back of this hand all the way around, wraps around to the back of this hand. Anytime that arm is crossing my body to the opposite side, that back arm line is loaded to explode. So we hope that this cheat sheet helps you understand. I can see the chain reaction, but boy, what lines are going to really influence that, and where do I have my big intersections? So what we're going to do now is give you a real example. We're going to bring in our model, a couple of our coaches, and we're going to take the same side rotation chain reaction and show you some of the big bang for buck lines that will upgrade your ability to do that. Okay, coming in, team. I think, Dano, you're lucky man. You're our model.
All right.
So before Dan does his same side, we're going to do right leg, same side rotational chain reaction. In other words, the right leg is going same side right. Before we do that, how might this show up in everyday life? I happen to know that this guy loves tennis, maybe a little too much these days. And anytime he's a right-handed, he's playing his forehand, typically he's going to load onto that right leg. He's going to wind up with right rotation and explode out of it to hit that beautiful topspin. Cross court, right, Dan?
That's right.
All right. So I want you to just see how this chain reaction is actually something Dan does thousands of times a week when he's hitting a tennis ball. But for now, why don't we, Dan, do 2 to 3? And when you feel really like that's my transformational zone where I feel good, stick the land in and hold it. Beautiful. Boom. Okay, team, let's go to work. So I'm going to show the first line. As I come around Dan here, if I'm looking at his ability to do this, I'm immediately thinking this leg stays home, left knee, right shoulder goes for a walk to the opposite side. Right there. Linda, pin that on the inside, the medial knee there. Medial knee adductors. Comes up. Woo, pubic symphysis. Don't worry, Dano, I won't pin that there. And it's going to go across the entire abdominal wall to his opposite shoulder. And literally go into that medial aspect of the humerus. Pecs, that's right. This is adductors, knee, all the way to his pecs and shoulder on the other side. Coach Davis, if you could hold that in for me. So what you'll see now is as Dan goes into his backswing, that thing is loaded. What does it want to do? Unload him. Load to explode. Hales, what else we got?
So simultaneously, the functional back line is also loaded. So if we look at from Dan's left leg up towards his right shoulder, the functional back line originates here at the patella in the tibia tuberosity. It's going to come up the lateral edge of his left thigh in the vastus lateralis. It's going to come around into the gluteus maximus. Woo, yes. Then we're going to get into that sacral tuberosity. It's going to cross up through his latissimus dorsi, and it actually anchors here at the humerus. So you can see how he's loaded there. and lengthened through his functional back line.
Yeah. We've literally got opposite cross slings going on.
Yep.
Okay, now, Howard, if you could hold this one here.
Yep.
Coach Davis, if possible, can you come down and hold this one here? And I'll let go of this one. Okay. I've got this. Now, still picture that functional front line, but imagine instead of going to the opposite shoulder, what I'm actually going to do now is come up, and I'm going to say, I'm the deep front line. Yes, it starts on the foot, comes up to the adductor. Then it goes through the pelvic floor, wraps around it. Then it goes up, wraps around the diaphragm, goes up, wraps around the heart. Let that resonate. Goes up, wraps around the tongue. Now, that deep front line is not only the core of the body, it affects not only mobility and motion, it affects breathing. It affects your heart, it affects your tongue. It affects every organ in the body. So when Dano's doing his forehand, these lines at a very minimum are getting lengthened and loaded. So if you've got someone, say, with stuck adductors, someone who's got a dehydrated pelvis, someone who's got a gunked up shoulder, ouch. Question is, where on here could I start to create effective and efficient motion? Anywhere. If I release that knee, it's going to affect that shoulder. Coach Davis releases this posterior hip, it affects that shoulder. I affect that pelvis, boom, he's breathing better, moving better, his entire rib cage moves better. So hopefully you can see in a simple same side rotation to the right, these three big lines absolutely intersect at key locations on the body. And in Dano, knee, hip, pelvis, and shoulder. Boom.